One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and here in the room with me, I have my Croatian friend, Boris. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Finally, we get to go on about these two films. Sorry, last week I was a little busy, but this week we have in store for you another double feature of films, and these two, I swear, are more crazier than the last two.
I agree. Yeah, I
So
definitely agree.
the first the first film, we really have to lose our heads. I mean, use our foreheads about um, to even discuss. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a IMDb intro. What IMDb says
Okay.
about this particular film, and it was filmed in 2007, and it was called Trail of the Screaming Forehead. Um, a small town infestation of crawling alien foreheads that begin attaching to people and taking them over collides with a scientist's experiments to extract foreheadazine, and things go horribly, horribly wrong. So, in the very beginning of this film, we have Daniel Roebuck, who um, he's played in several of Larry Blamire's films. Um, he's played in at least the Lost Skeleton Returns, if not, I think he no, he played in the Lost Skeleton of Cadabra. He played in the first film, and then Brian Howe came back as his brother um, in the second one. So Daniel Roebuck plays Amos in here, and him and let's see if I remember correctly, Susan McConnell plays Sarah, I believe. We
Yes.
have a Dr. Sheila Baxter, a Dr. Philip Latham, a Dr. Thorpe, Big Dan Frater, and his buddy Dutch the Swede, Anna Crombie.
Yeah.
Healy, Mary Latham, Droxy Chappelle, Nick Vessadine, Eddie, Chief Bartnett, Mrs. Cutie, and Reverend Beeks. These are all characters that play within this film. And Droxy Chappelle, she's played by Jennifer Blair. Nick Vessadine.
Um, I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Hello.
Yes.
I think something went wrong. I just suddenly stopped hearing your sound, and your video got frozen as
Well,
well.
can you hear me now?
Uh, I had a little sound glitch, but yeah.
Okay, well, we'll continue to uh, roll tape. So,
Okay.
I just got finished telling the audience all the different characters that are in the film, And what I just asked you was, what is the name of this seaside town that we're in, and that this film takes place in, if you caught it? And what was your first impression of this film as a whole?
I didn't catch the name of the town. I'm sorry, but my first impressions were pretty good. Although when I heard the title of the movie, I had somewhat different expectations, but it was still very funny, and I liked it a lot. When I first heard the title, The Trail of the Screaming Forehead, it made me think uh, of a certain something from Joe Sherlock's movie Odd Noggins. I want to mention it because it would be a spoiler for Odd Noggins, but you probably know what I'm referring
Well,
to.
we're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie anyways. So spoiler alert, folks.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, the word screaming in this title reminded me of a certain scene from Joe Sherlock's Odd Noggins. So I originally imagined something similar to that happening here. Well, it turned out to be something different, but the idea of this movie is really funny and very original. I don't remember seeing anything like this in any movie before. This movie really made me laugh many times, and I liked it a lot.
Well, Larry Blamire definitely in his screenplays definitely plays a lot around with words and phrases and rearranges them in a way that make them forcibly sound funny. So um, there, it's a little getting used to when you haven't seen it firsthand, but you kind of saw it in Lost Skeleton Cadabra, which it worked for that film, and the Return of the Lost Skeleton. Well, you and me both thought that there were maybe a bit too many characters in that film to keep track of. Now, in this particular film, could you follow the characters very good?
Well, yeah, in this movie I didn't really have an issue with that. Maybe there were a lot of characters, but many of them were really minor characters, and it wasn't so relevant to the plot to know them all. So yeah, in this movie it was fine.
Well, let's take a look at the rundown of the plot. So, in the very beginning of the film, we have Daniel Roebuck. Evidently, he and his wife um, kind of manage this Bayside Inn of sorts, um, and he goes out and explores the forest nearby and finds something that he did not expect.
Yeah.
Which took him ahead of the situation and made him a controlled person to the scientist that was uh, living within the inn already. And I think there's another character that seems to come to the inn and eat. It seems to be like the local restaurant as well of the town, you know, because everybody seems to centralize around this place of living,
Oh, yeah.
or at least the dining room area, so to speak. So another character that we end up meeting is Millie, who seems to be the town librarian,
Yes.
which for some strange reason, all the books on foreheads start to be rented out. And also, apparently, there seems to be a strange invasion of of tremendous tremendous foreheads taking over the town to create this mob of controlled people with these talking foreheads that evidently need bodies to live, I guess.
Yeah, well, I have to say, when I heard the title, I kind of hoped to see more scenes, so foreheads speaking or screaming.
Well, come on, man. Why don't you just allow me to take your body?
Yeah, that was a good one.
But in any case, so the plot is kind of this: there are two scientists who are trying to play the game of um, figuring out whether foreheads are better than brains, and whether foreheads in the forehead is this a separate entity, and does it in fact have more brain cells than the brain itself?
Uh, yeah, it really takes a unique forehead to come up with such an idea, right?
Right. But in any case, we have Dr. Applecrom, who evidently is an older man, and he seems to have the idea that the brain is where everything is, and not the forehead. And yet, with how complacent the wife and husband character of the inn are in being told what to do, it makes him feel like it's his home. Or like he's more at home because whenever he asks something to get done, it gets done. on,
Yeah,
on the other hand, we have Dr. Phillip, who sided with Millie about her idea that foreheads are in fact superior than the brain. So he's trying to come up with a formula or a something to create or to bring out the forehead in himself, or at least the thinking power behind it, so that he can become the smartest man in the world, maybe.
yeah, from what I understood, the two of them discovered that the human forehead was secreting some substance which they called foreheadazine, and they thought that if they injected him with that substance, he would become smarter, and that would supposedly be a proof that the human intellect is contained in the forehead and not in the brain.
Now, did you notice how much those forehead creatures multiplied?
uh,
It seemed like they came from nowhere.
well, yeah, actually, I must say I wondered when there was that scene of Amos and Dr. Applethorpe rubbing their foreheads against each other, and before that happened, Amos already had an alien forehead on his own one, and Dr. Applethorpe didn't, but after they did that, they both had alien foreheads. So I don't know if maybe that somehow caused the alien forehead to multiply or something.
So much of the plot is centered around this town. What was the name of the town? Do you remember?
No, I forgot the name. I'm sorry. What was it?
I believe it was called Long Bay, something or other. They kept saying it a couple of times. Long Bay Town or something like that. But in any case, it seemed like it was very much a seaside town. So it's it's very possible that these foreheads were crustaceans of some sort.
I'm sorry. They were what?
Crustaceans or sea, or from the sea or something like that.
Uh, oh.
Because we didn't really see a meteor fall from the sky. We just saw him go out to the middle of the woods and find this thing, and suddenly it was on his forehead in the very beginning. So it's possible if you looked at it from a different angle, it's possible it could have come from the sea.
Phew. Well, yeah. All forehead in the line did mention something about coming from another planet.
True.
I think.
There is that, but you know, it is a possibility if you didn't think about aliens from outer space. It didn't exactly show the darn thing falling from outer space. You know.
Uh, well, yeah, that's true. I think we didn't see any UFO or anything like that. Interesting.
But in any case, so these two characters, Big Dan Frater and his buddy Dutch, the Swede Anacrombie,
Yeah.
come along to this inn, and evidently they're looking for some seaside vacation of some sort, I guess, because they're just coming in to port from sea, and they end up involved in the whole situation by coming to this inn and seeing that these people um, are starting to change. And they end up getting together with the town librarian to figure out what exactly is going on. Because Millie, played by Allison Martin, um, thinks that something is wrong. So they end up going to the police. And what do you think the police say about this whole thing?
The police doesn't believe them like it usually happens in this sort of movies.
Yep. And of course, he starts investigating a couple of other people that are apparently in town that are a little bit more seedier. Where we have Droxy Chappelle and Nick Vesadine. What do you think about these two characters? The
Well,
lounge singer.
well, I have to say I liked Droxy a lot. She was very beautiful. Am I wrong, or was she played by the same actress who played Animala in the Lost Skeleton movies?
You are not wrong, indeed. Um, and remember, I did say that she eventually became Larry Blamire's wife in real life, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I recognized her from the previous two movies we discussed. and
Hour.
I actually really, yeah, yeah. I I really liked her in this one. I liked her hairstyle. It makes her really beautiful in this movie, and her singing voice surprised me.
Yeah. Which made this film almost like a slight musical because it does have a a s- a, a theme song. uh,
Yeah,
it seems like a title song that is. I think it was played in the beginning, and then
it
she
was,
sung
yes.
it, and then it was played in the very end of the film as well. So to me, I feel even though the movie or the music seemed like it was sung out of tune, you could definitely tell that Jennifer Blair had a singing voice, even though she was singing the song somewhat out of tune. And I think she was singing it somewhat out of tune on
uh,
purpose,
I think so, yeah.
or
And
somewhat off key to make it seem like she was not a good singer.
yeah, well, this song was actually very interesting and very funny. Like, if you only listen to the melody and don't listen to the lyrics, you would think it's some romantic ballad from the 60s or something like that. And if you hear the lyrics, you're like, wow, what is going on here? I actually like that kind of songs quite a bit. They tend to be pretty funny.
Definitely, definitely. What did you think about Nick Vassadine's character,
Well,
Larry Blamire's part?
yeah. Well, he was also an interesting one. He is a guy who, from what I understood, usually tries to make money by doing some illegal business. Uh, and yeah, he mentioned something about he tried to do some business with shopping carts, but I didn't quite manage to understand what that part was about. But yeah, then he got in contact with Sheila, the scientist who wanted human foreheads for her experiments, and that's when things with Nick get really funny.
For sure, for sure. I mean, it was definitely a different side of Larry Blamire to see him a little bit more seedier. Whereas in Return of the Lost Skeleton, he was more sarcastic, and this one he was a little bit more streetwise than anything else. More like one of those kind of characters where he would sell his soul just to make some bread.
Yeah, pretty much. The whole thing about his businesses somewhat reminded me of this old sitcom, Only Fools and Horses.
I have an episode of that, believe it or not, bootlegged, but it is one episode.
Well, yeah, that show was good.
But in any case, moving on to okay, so apparently the Dr. Philip they needed more for Hedazine, so that's why she went to the bar that Droxy and Nick perpetrate or uh, um, hang around at, or at least it's Nick's club, so to speak. I
Yeah.
believe. And don't you find it kind of funny that he had some forhetazine right on hand?
uh, yeah, well, from what I remember, this guy, Big Dan, he had access to a warehouse where they had some dead human bodies for medical purposes, and then Droxy and Nick broke in and stole the foreheads from those bodies, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yes. So you did in fact pay attention at least a little bit. I think you had time and practice. So, how many times did you end up watching this film?
Well, actually, uh, I think I watched this one 3 or 4 times since we were supposed to watch it to discuss it last week. So I rewatched it each time before we were supposed to have a live stream, but then didn't end up having it. So yeah, I watched it multiple times.
And did you enjoy watching it every time?
I did, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you're never sure when you rewatch a movie, are you going to get bored anytime soon? But to me, every time I watch a Larry Blamire film, it's like I see something new every single time. It's like I
well,
see something that wait a minute. I didn't see that the last time. I didn't hear that the last time neither.
yeah.
You know?
Indeed, the first time, or maybe the first 2 times, I didn't notice some funny dialogue lines because, as I probably mentioned in some of our previous discussions, as you know, English is not my first language. So when I listen to someone speak English and I don't have subtitles, sometimes I struggle to distinguish what was said. But yeah, now I watched this movie more than once, so I managed to distinguish more. And there were some funny dialogue lines, like when Nick was having a discussion with this policeman, and he mentioned something about his mother being pregnant with his sister's daughter. Yeah, that was a funny one.
there is
Which I,
another
yeah,
there is another character in here that I wanted to mention, and that would be Mary yeah, Mary Latham,
oh,
who is Philip's wife, if I remember correctly, and
yes.
and she plays the housewife that you normally see in all of those 1950s old commercials, the Betty Crocker housewife, where she wears the house apron and she cooks all your meals with a smile on her face,
Yeah,
and
and
and everything is uh, hello, dear. How are you? Dinner's ready. Would you like a cup of coffee, dear? Things of that nature.
yeah, well, her husband makes some remarks that in for today's standards sound a little bit sexist.
Yeah, they kind of do because he says you wouldn't know anything about science, dear. You're just a housewife.
Yeah, yeah, that exactly. Uh, 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 y- yeah, I think were they possibly did they possibly put such lies in the movie in order to make fun of how uh, people these days often cause drama about gender identities and things like that.
Oh, it's just kind of like if I started telling you my penis was bigger than yours or something like that, or things of that nature. I
Yeah,
mean, we're to me we're all equal in our brain capacities, so it really doesn't matter,
or our, or our
or
forehead
forehead
capacity.
capacity. But
Yeah,
yeah, you can make all kinds of jokes with this film, can't you?
uh, yeah,
But
this good.
I'm ahead of you in that nature.
Yeah.
Four? No, just kidding. But in any case, um, we have the three I aforementioned, the Big Dan Frater and his friend, and shall I say Millie. So Dan, Dutch, and Millie are together in the library, and they're going over the books about foreheads, and they're trying to figure out how to defeat these foreheads that are over people. And by this time, the police chief has been overtaken by the alien foreheads, or alien forehead, in an alleyway. Of course, you get someone around the corner saying, "Hey, didn't you just hear that screaming?" And of course, there's that random old lady that we don't know who the heck she is, but she's just there. Um, so and I think her name is Mrs. Cutie or Mrs.
uh,
Cuddle. Mrs.
uh,
Cuddle.
yeah, I think that was it.
So, and actually, Mrs. Cuddle is she played Irene Lorenzo in All in the Family, and definitely a lot of older films. Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Neptune's Daughters. She was in a few films from like the 1940s and 50s, and a couple of TV shows over time. But I guess her
Oh,
biggest roles were on All in the Family, and then I guess she ended up being on Laverne and Shirley in the 70s as Edna Babish DeFazio.
oh, wow. I haven't seen those.
I know that Laverne and Shirley and the Love Boat and all. I know I watched a lot of All in the Family growing up myself, but I don't remember her. But it's interesting that he did use her in this movie and as well in the next movie, Dark and Stormy Night. And Dick Miller, he played that Eddie, the bartender, the one that kept being told to go and grab me another beer by Big Dan Frater.
Yeah.
Go refresh my beer, be a good lad, or something like that. But Dick Miller has been in a lot of movies. He was in the original Piranha, Gremlins, The Burbs, The Terminator. Um, he's been
Oh,
in a lot of different things. Amityville, 1992. It's About Time.
oh, wow.
So yeah, I mean, I think he was in 30 episodes of Fame. But he's been in a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, that's right. He was in V: The Final Battle.
Oh, I didn't know.
But Twilight Zone, the movie. But
Oh, nice.
he's been in a lot of stuff. So having him play a cameo wasn't too bad. So ultimately, they find out that in some tome or whatnot book that loud noises will affect them. These foreheads.
Uh,
So why don't you tell me what I've been talking a little bit. I figured I'd let you talk. Um, why don't you tell me a little bit about what happened next after they found out about this technique, or what you think happened?
well, they took a lot of bells in order to fight the people possessed by alien foreheads. And uh, yeah, then a whole bunch of forehead people appeared and tried to get them as well, but then they started to produce noises with those bells, and it did affect the forehead people, but then they retreated and came back with earplugs, which made it more difficult.
Another thing
Uh,
I thought was a little funny is when all the four-headed people were gathered in the inn to listen to Reverend Beak do a speech where he was like, "What will hide a forehead the most?" And he pulls out this little cap that has a net, a fish net on it. This it looks like a little bellhop hop cap
eh,
with fish netting, so it was like more like a bonnet. So everybody walked out of the thing with these bonnets in single file, all solemnly in single file, like.
yeah, it was funny because when he started to elaborate on the idea of hiding their foreheads, it kind of made sense he would mention hats or something like that, but then
Yeah, but it was a
the
little ass hat with a fish net, and it didn't even cover their foreheads, so it was even
well,
more
yeah,
funnier.
yeah,
It
yeah,
barely
exactly.
covered. It barely covered their Mr. Clean heads. Oh wait,
Yeah.
no, they weren't all bald, but in any case.
Yeah, like they could have just they could have just obtained some bigger hats, and then they could have actually hidden those foreheads, but no.
Well, they could have gone to Mexico to grab some sombreros.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But in any case, so after that, uh, um, there's also the fact that Philip has taken um, the fourheadazine in pill form, and he's grown this enormously large head uh, made of forehead zine, and he's basically told he's ugly as fuck by his um his floozy scientist Flame, and then he goes home to his wife, and she's scared the shit. She's scared of him, so he runs screaming and keeps running, and ends up being the one that comes and saves the day. Basically, it's like he solves his own problem by trying to use the phones, but of course someone answers that, and he's like, I can't take this anymore. And there just so happens to be a fire alarm up against the wall that nobody sees but him. That apparently was there before, but is there now. So he rings it, and everybody falls over dead, I guess, for the most part. Or maybe some of the people survive. I don't know. Did we see any people survive?
I think we didn't. I think we saw them all go down, and we just didn't see them. We didn't see them again, from what I remember, neither dead or alive. But we did see Philip dead. So I assume the others died as well.
Yes. So we did kind of talk about music somewhat, but did you notice any other music that happened to transpire through this film, as well, like elevator music or anything like that?
Well, there was some music, but aside of the theme song, which was impossible not to pay attention to and laugh at it, otherwise I didn't pay much attention. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just going to take a look here really quick just to see. Okay, so the music was by Chris Ainscough, and I guess he worked on some of the sound department on the Highlander series. So I guess that's a little intriguing. He worked as a composer for Christina's House, a movie called The Falling, which I'm not sure if I've ever heard of before. Let's see if there's any. I'm just looking at Midnight Stallion. I think I've heard of that one. And then a lot of the stuff is TV movies the last couple of years. So, but yeah, he did My Baby Is Missing TV movie, Dream of Flight, A Portrait of Sven Johansson. Oh, he did a couple of documentaries, but nothing really that exclusive. The only thing I mentioned that I think besides Trail of Screaming Forehead was Christina's House, because I think that was a horror film that I saw back in the late 90s.
So I haven't seen that one, but I can look it up later.
I think I have it around here somewhere. We can check it out eventually down the road, if anything.
Nice.
Just to have a connection to it. But
I
in any
wouldn't
case,
mind.
did you have a favorite scene, maybe, from this particular film?
Well, I think it would actually be the scene of Philip running and screaming after realizing that his head had become a giant forehead. I found that a pretty funny scene, actually. While I was watching the movie for the first time, at one point, I found myself wondering why the movie was called The Trail of the Screaming Forehead, because up to that point there were some foreheads, but none of them was screaming. So I wondered why the title contained the phrase "screaming forehead," but then this scene came up and it all made sense. That was pretty funny.
I don't know why, but I always get a kick out of uh, what is her name? Uh, I get a kick out of Susan McConnell's character every time.
Sarah.
Sarah, yeah, she played the one that was the in charge of the inn, and for some reason, how blonde she sometimes talks. And whatnot. Even though I like her better off with Andrew Parks as an alien, I do have enjoyed her other characters, which we'll get to in Dark and Stormy Night, where she plays quite a mad character.
Yeah, I think I know which one it is.
I guess yeah, that would be my favorite to think about. Oh, um, while I was looking around, I found the unfortunately it's somewhat ripped, but I found the playbill to the Monster from Phantom Lake the musical while I was looking around.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Before we moved on with special effects of this thing. Now, if yes, I think yep, my name is on here somewhere.
Oh.
In the beginning of this. I'll have to send you the music to this as well, so that you can download the music. There I am. I'm not sure if you can see my name there.
Let's see.
It's
Well,
one.
there's a lot of names. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
easy to find it.
It's 5 lines up on the left inside.
Oh,
One.
I think it could be.
Well, I see it.
Uh,
If anything else.
uh, I'm not sure it was possibly hidden behind your name on the StreamYard. Uh, oh, I wasn't looking in. Oh, yeah, I see it now. I was. Looks like I didn't originally find it after all.
Well, and there is. I know that there is. Maybe it's not here in this particular box here, but I've got the music around here somewhere. I'll have to share it with you. Once I go
Nice.
once I go through these boxes or whatnot, I'll find where I stuck the musical. I can only stick so much stuff in a box, and it hasn't. I guess putting stuff in a bin, you don't expect it to get so crumpled or crinkled, but over the years, I guess, when you stick more and more stuff on top of each other, stuff gets wrinkled and bent and torn, and it's a little depressing. But in any case,
Yeah.
moving on see. What did you think about the special effects of the film, the creature involved, the forehead, and the talking forehead, and the
Well,
different
the effects,
variations of the forehead?
yeah, the effects were very interesting. I would actually say they were quite good, especially the way they created Philip's forehead head. It was very well made, in my opinion. And yeah, the scene with the alien forehead talking, it was also pretty well done. And yeah, there were many scenes with the alien foreheads moving all by themselves. Mm, yeah, I was actually surprised by how realistic some of it was done. Well, maybe not all of it, but some of it definitely was. Philip's head, for example.
I thought it was a very unique concept, and I think that the creature design of the forehead and the way that they did some of the special effects were actually pretty cool. I mean, um, I know that this movie only got a UK release, but um, I was intrigued by the story. Um, and let's see, just looking at the let's see, seeing if they okay, so the makeup department. Oh, okay, so the evidently Frank Ippolito and Robin Kilgore are from the Chiodo Productions company, which has something to do with Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Uh,
Oh,
again, remember I mentioned that before in Return of the Skeleton. Well, we don't have the Chiodo brothers themselves, but we have makeup artists of that did the prosthetics from the Chiodo brothers company. So that's kind of cool that he went with the Chioda brothers for some of the creature design of the creatures. I think so. That was interesting to find out. Which is why I'm surprised that this movie only got a UK release with the Chioda brothers name on it involved in it. So.
yeah.
And this did get a Blu-ray release, which I was unable to search or have time to search for it. I've just been so busy with different interviews and whatnot, so I just didn't get a chance to hop into one of these boxes or bins. No, not boxes. I upgraded.
I understand.
But it is a pretty interesting Blu-ray, and they're working on right now the Blu-ray to the following film, which why don't we start going into? The following film is called Dark and Stormy Night, and it was filmed in 2009. And let me just say a little summary of what IMDb says about the film before we move forward here. In the 1930s, the film or the family of old Silas Cavender gathered for the reading of his will, find themselves being murdered by a mysterious phantom while two rival reporters compete for the story. So, first of all, we have Jim Beaver, who has been in Supernatural, the series, and playing Jack Tugnan. We have Jennifer Blair, once again, playing Billy Tuesday, one of the reporters. Larry Blamire plays a stranger by the name of Ray Westenhouse, who claims to have had car trouble and is just there to get out of the rain. Kogar the gorilla is played by Bob Burns. Happy Codburn is played by Dan Conroy. Archie Fold is played by Robert Devereaux. Jeans, the butler, is played by Bruce French. Mrs. Housenstout is played by Betty Garrett. Jane Hovenham is played by Trish Geiger, who is the maid. Berlin Famish Jr. is played by Brian Howe. Gunny is played by Marvin Kaplan. Satan Ethelquake is played by James Karen. Mrs. Cupcupboard is played by Allison Martin. Sabasha Fanmore is played by Faye Masterson, and Thessaly is played by Susan McConnell. So, these are the cast. What was your experience with Dark and Stormy Night? Was this a now I understand you rewatched this film a couple of times too, right?
yes, I did. Yeah, in this one, I have to admit, there are a lot of characters, and the first time I watched it, I somewhat struggled to keep the track of who is who and who has done what to whom. It was a bit difficult the first time I was watching it, but yeah, I managed to catch up on most of it when I rewatched it. It was it was also a very interesting movie, unique in its own way. I see Larry Blamire was experimenting with different uh, different kinds of movie plot. Like in the previous ones, we had some horror sci-fi things. This one is more of a crime story, and
Well, to be honest, I I actually kind of believe that this was done in kind of the old dark house, um, which there is an older old dark house, but there is uh, from the 50s, I believe. But you kind of see this kind of a genre. It's a comedy horror mystery whodunit kind of a thing, and you see it in movies like Agatha Christie's, and then there were none. Old Dark House, which was directed by William Castle. Haunted Honeymoon, uh, which there are a couple of those out there too. With yeah, I mean, Haunted Honeymoon is with Gene Wilder and Gilda Radner when she was still alive. And um, what happens in these is often somebody's invited to a will reading, and then of course people start getting murdered.
yeah.
So in the very beginning, you see a taxi arrive with 8 o'clock Faraday, played by Daniel Roebuck, who shows up to um, this house where he's supposedly going there to cover the story of the Cavender person that has apparently passed away. And lo and behold, the cabbie driver he needs only 35 cents, but the bridge has broken down as well behind them.
Yeah,
but
and
but as they are ushered in by the butler, um, more people keep arriving, even though the bridge has been destroyed.
good point. Yeah, they did mention the bridge being destroyed. I didn't realize that it was supposed to be destroyed before all those people arrived.
Correct.
Interesting.
So Billy Tuesday is the other reporter that supposedly has arrived. Get now get this. His name is 8 o'clock Faraday, and her name is Billy Tuesday. So to me, it's like it's saying 8 o'clock Friday, and but in any case, so
interesting.
apparently the people that are within the home already are Lord Partfine, who is played by Andrew Parks. Apparently, he is playing the piano as they come in.
Yeah, I think so.
But there is a character that is there that he is playing a character, an older man, when he's actually a much younger man, I think, or I believe, and he goes by the name of Mark Redfield, who plays Harper Twilly.
Oh.
And he says he says something to complete stranger Ray Westenhouse, whose car just broke down. I leave $10,000 to be given in small denominations. Holy smoke! What a piece of luck! Or okay, so he's the one that reads the will.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch his name. Now
Okay.
I understand.
And he also says, "Are you members of the immediate family?" And Billy Tuesday said, "I am, but I'm not." 8 o'clock Faraday says, "She isn't, and so I am, or so am I."
Yeah, there were some pretty interesting dialogue lines. But yeah, that's a Larry Blamire movie after all.
Well,
Those dialogue lines are like what make his movies unique.
well, and of course we have see Brian Howe, who plays Berlin Famous Jr., who is that rotund, round, well-dressed man who ultimately we find out that he is in league with the Phantom's Strangler.
Yeah, I think so.
Or should it be the Cavender Phantom?
Yeah, he was one of the Phantoms.
Which apparently this house has secret passageways and paintings that have eye holes and walls that have holes and many different things that people can hide in to apparently there is a gorilla that seems to be walking around untamed, and there seems to be David Livingston character who was played by Jim Beaver, like I said before. His name is Jack Tugden, and supposedly he went on African safaris for 4 years with Mr. Cavender when he was alive, and it was so hard to do that. That he expects something out of the will. And we have the wife of Mr. Famous Jr., who is played by Christine Romeo. And I think, let's see, who else is there? Oh, there's of course the maid with the cook, with where the cook seems like he's medicated or some shit because he's always holding the cleaver up high. He looks like he's about to snap. he could murder someone in a second, although he gets murdered later. And of course, there's this supposed curse placed on by a witch that's never been found, that's supposedly is in the house.
Eventually it turns out the person who they thought was the witch actually wasn't, and the witch in the end didn't play any part in what happened, right?
Right. And of course, you have a medium that goes by the name of Cup Cover, Mrs. Cup Cover, that has been drawn to the house by spirits. And when she walks in the door, she says she met death.
Like she had a premonition about what was going to happen.
Yes. So ultimately, what happens when they all gather for the will?
This lawyer reads the main will, but then it turns out there is an extra part that the deceased man wrote afterwards. Apparently, he changed his mind about what he was going to leave to whom, but then that extra piece of paper turned out to be stolen. But when the lawyer said he was familiar with its content, the lights went out and he was stabbed to death, which lets the audience know that someone, all those people in the room, didn't want that extra part of the will to be heard.
And of course, right after the will was read, someone gets stabbed, and it seems like a lot of stabbings seem to happen from then on out.
Indeed, stabbing and strangling.
Oh yeah, strangling does seem to happen. And I don't think that anyone has. And of course, the hunter ultimately, after the séance of sorts, the hunter himself, he gets mounted on the wall.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a pretty wild scene.
But what did you think about the character of Gunny?
Oh, Gunny Luck Cakes, was that his name?
Yeah.
The spirit that this video woman was interacting with. Yeah, well, he had a pretty short screen time, but he was pretty fun from what I remember.
Well, the guy who played him, his name is Marvin Kaplan. He played in "It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World" as Irwin from 1963, Uncle Pooch in David Lynch's Wild at Heart, The Great Race as Frisbee in 1965, which was a similar film to like It's a Mad, Mad World. Um, he played Henry in the sitcom Alice. Um, he played as a voice, as an additional voice in the Garfield show. Um, Later on, after Dark and Stormy Night.
Oh,
Let's see. Oh, he was in Witchboard 2 as Morris. Let's see. Just looking and seeing what else he might have been in. Just to see. Okay. Midnight Madness. Henry, It's the King, the TV series. Freaky Friday, in the original Freaky Friday, as a carpet cleaner. Love American Style. I guess he was in the Chicago Teddy Bears. But yeah, a lot of his acting career was. He was in the original Nutty Professor as an English student. But he was. Oh, now that is interesting. He was the voice of Choo Choo in Top Cat, the Hanna-Barbera series.
oh, cool. Wow. I didn't know.
But in any case, that was kind of interesting that he was in there. There is one more a thing. Ray Harryhausen was a self-presenter in the film the Trail of the Screaming Foreheads. Paul Bunnell was one of the bewildered bar patrons in Trail of the Screaming Forehead.
Yes.
Paul Bunnell, I mentioned before. He was the director of a musical, a rock and roll musical called The Ghastly Love of Johnny X.
Oh.
Which
I haven't seen that.
Which maybe we'll have to cover one of these days.
Sounds good to me.
But in any case, let's see who else. Okay, so as the film goes on, there is apparently has been an escape from a mental ward of a certain character, which I believe her name is Sebastian Fanmore.
Well, yeah. It eventually turns out that the real Sebastian was murdered before the events of the movie, and this person who escaped from the mental hospital was supposedly very good at disguising themselves, and they took Sebastian's place, but uh, that person's original name, I couldn't quite distinguish it. It was Rolka or something like that.
Yes. So apparently this Dr. Van Vanderson, who was played by H.M. Wynant, which he actually played in the previous film. And he's been in a lot of films himself. He was Huskins and Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Crazy Wolf in Run of the Arrow from 1957. He was in The Twilight Zone as David Ellington. He was in Mannix as Lou Reynolds and Tom Wall. He was in Trail of the Screaming Forehead as Dr. Applethorpe.
Oh, that was him. Wow.
Yep.
I did see a lot of familiar faces, but I didn't connect them all.
He was in Solar Crisis in the 1990, Airwolf, Falcon Crest, Dallas, Earthbound, Hangar 18, Last Ride of the Dalton Gang, Bigfoot and Wild Boy, the TV series. The fuck? Okay. Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew mystery series in one episode. Quincy M.E. in 2 episodes. 2 episodes of The $6 Million Man.
Wow. Sounds like
he was in that's a good movie that I like. The Horror at 37,000 Feet.
It sounds like the actors from Larry Blamire's movies have been in a lot of other movies. I'm surprised.
Well, he did get some legends, somewhat. I guess this guy was on the Doris Day show back in the day, Gunsmoke, in 8 episodes. The Virginian, the original Wild Wild West TV show from 1965 to 68. That was about 4 episodes that he was on, which I have the complete of. He was on The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I guess he was on a TV series called Branded, which I've been meaning to pick up. He was on 10 episodes of Perry Mason, which I have the complete series of. Wagon Train, Wheeler Deals, It Happened at the World's Fair, The Untouchables. Yep, so he's been in quite a lot of... he was on The Twilight Zone, Bat Masterson, a couple of episodes, General Electric Theater, M Squad. So, I mean, the Magical World of Disney from 1959 in a couple of episodes.
Whoa.
So, in any case, moving on. So, apparently, so there was supposedly a secondary note that went missing from the will, which is which seems to be what everyone is trying to look for. And every time someone tries to read it, someone ends up dead from trying to read it. I love the guy that's the taxi driver that all he wants is those 35 cents. And nobody's willing to give him any 35 cents for anything.
Yeah, but he eventually gets them.
I'll just take the first watch, and then he's complaining later on. Nobody ever told me what time the shift was going to start and when it was going to end. All I want is some shut-eye.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
And then, of course, later he was locked in the attic and tricked by the mad daughter of Cavender, which apparently is his daughter, and he willed it to her in that secondary note. Which, ladies and gentlemen, earlier you heard us say that we were going to spoil the shit out of these films. We did. So,
yeah, sorry about that.
I'm not. Anyways. But I do want people to check these films out for themselves.
Indeed.
They were comical, and there was definitely dialogue that was unique, and I will always remember some of the dialogue, especially there's this one scene where where the doctor or detective pulls 8 o'clock Faraday to the side, and he's like, "There was one specific phrase that we used to tell our patient," and he's like, "Okay, what is it?" And he's like, "All you got to say is put down the puppy."
Wasn't it? He told 8 o'clock Faraday to use the phrase "let the puppy go." And,
let the puppy go. Yes, let the puppy go. And so when he went around the corner to the room, he ran into to Billy Tuesday, and he said, "Let the puppy go." And he said in response,
"Come to Nana."
let the puppy go.
Come to Nana.
Let the puppy go.
Come to Nana.
Wait, this is working. So, but there's a little bit of wordplay that goes around, and that was actually kind of in fact, that's my favorite part, to be honest. Oh, besides, I think my other favorite scene, and you could say yours after this, if you wanted to. My other favorite scene is when the purple hand starts to come down on Billy Tuesday while she's laying in the bed, and the cabbie is just sleeping at the end of the bed or whatnot, and she's like, hand, and then she's fighting with the hand, and then of course. 8 o'clock Faraday comes in, and the cabbie are on the other side, and they're trying to get the hand away from her, and they end up holding hands.
Yeah, like they start to fight with the hand, but they end up fighting each other's hands.
Which is just kind of some slapstick kind of humor, So, but in any case, so what exactly happens in the end? So ultimately, they end up coming across both of the phantoms, because evidently there have been two phantoms going around, not just one, that have been trying to haunt the house and kill enough people in order to for the right person to die so that the money can fall to them, if I am understanding it correctly.
I think so.
And they both are found out, and ultimately the Irish Mad Lass, I believe her name in here is Cecily.
Oh, yeah. Well, I found the eventual outcome pretty interesting. Some of it was maybe predictable, like when earlier in the movie when they found Sebastian on that staircase, and she was apparently unconscious after she was supposedly kidnapped. at that point I started to suspect that she would be the killer, because if she had really been kidnapped by the killer, she would have probably been either dead or at least badly wounded. But no, she was fine, and that was why I started to suspect her. But I didn't expect there would be two murderers and not only one. That was an unexpected twist.
And what about the part where the Phantom or whoever was in the purple hooded cape thing got stuck in the bookcase, and they didn't even realize that had happened. But they knew that. But they had enough smarts to realize that there was a hidden bookcase or a hidden passageway. So I guess at least they got it half right.
Yeah, that was also interesting. And if I understood correctly, while the Phantom was trying to pull his cloak out when it got stuck, the other people in the room did hear some noises, but they couldn't figure out where they were coming from. And then we heard the scissors sound, implying that the Phantom was cutting that part of the cloak off so that they could run away.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed. So, what was your favorite moment in this film? Just to hear what your favorite scenes were or scene.
uh, well, maybe the scenes with the gorilla, like it was.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
the random gorilla. The random
uh,
gorilla, where they didn't know what the fuck to say when the gorilla appeared, especially when they went through the secret passage and they're like, "What the hell is that?" Oh, that's an ape. You apes, come here.
yeah, the gorilla was really funny first because although the whole movie was kind of weird, well, weird on purpose, I still didn't expect to see something like a gorilla in that house. And from what I understood, it was there only for the humor purpose, because otherwise it didn't really make an impact on the plot. It was just there to surprise the audience and to make us laugh. And I would actually like to say the gorilla costume was pretty well done, pretty realistic.
I think so too. I mean, I thought the costume was actually pretty good for a man in the gorilla suit kind of a thing. It was kind of a flashback or an homage to me, at least, to some gorilla type movies. And to me, I've seen similar things before. I mean, eventually I might, just for the sake of doing so, I may have us go on about Old Dark House just to show you what some of those are like. And there will be ample opportunity for us to do so, because I wouldn't mind um, seeing if we can't check out the older Old Dark House and then maybe do a double feature of the old one and the William Castle one as well, because Todd Browning did one from back in the day, who was director of Freaks, which was a very controversial film of its time, for having so many people that had amputations or um, they had actual freaks show up in there, and like real Siamese twins and shit like that.
Oh.
And people with abnormalities that weren't necessarily shown in films before, and people freaked out about it because they didn't know that there were people that looked like those people. So that's another one that I wouldn't mind checking out with you.
I wouldn't mind.
But in any case, what did you think about the music? It was a dark and stormy night.
Well, that song was pretty funny, and what made it so funny that those very characters who had almost been killed that night were eventually singing some cheerful song about it.
Yep. And did you notice any other music that was going on throughout the film as well, or no?
Well, I do remember some suspenseful background instrumentals, uh, yeah, I don't really know much about it. Didn't end up doing research on the music, but
So the music or composer of the music behind this film was actually Christopher Caliendo. I guess he did some music for um, the 1926 The Belle of Broadway, A Lady of Chance from 1928, Lucky Star, a restored version from 1929, City Girl, restoration from 2010 of a 1930 film, Major Dundee from 1965, Unspoken, The Undying, Footprints. Some of these I don't know, but The Undying actually sounds kind of cool. That's from 2009. I'll have to check and see if I can't find a copy of that one. But, in any case, what did you think about the special effects of the film?
Well, I remember being especially impressed by the scene when Jack Tugden's head ended up appearing on the wall as a trophy. That was that was pretty well done. And
I thought the way that the house was set up with the secret passage way, and the paintings that had the slit eyes. I mean, I love all that kind of stuff. You know, the hidden the houses with the hidden passageways where it seems like you can hide a fortune in. You know.
oh yeah, and there was also this scene with the spirit Gunny Gunny Luck Cakes, where his hand appeared floating in the air and talking to the media and other people in the room. It was also pretty well done.
Alrighty. Well. Other than that, is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we ended the discussion? I mean, there isn't a whole lot that I can think of. What about you?
Well, I don't know. I would like to say it was an interesting movie altogether. Maybe, like I said before, when I watched it for the first time, I somewhat struggled to keep track of the characters, but I watched it multiple times, so I managed to catch up on all of it, and it was an interesting crime story in the end with some supernatural elements, and I also liked the character of Thessaly, who, when she appeared for the first time, we thought she would be some witch, and actually, the first time she appeared on screen was kind of a jump scare. It took me by surprise, and it was also pretty good.
I like the old lady too, the one that was with the gorilla.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
little bit before that, she came out of nowhere and was like, "Wait a minute, who died? Oh, that person? Oh, never mind." And everyone's just looking at her like, "Where the fuck did she come from?"
Actually, I have to admit, thought the same when she appeared for the first time. I was like,
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry,
Where
I'm
did that
sorry.
lady come from? Wait a minute. Where did that lady come from? And what the hell does she have to do with the story?
Yeah, I actually went to check the previous scenes. Like maybe she appeared before and I just missed her. I had to check to be sure.
Well, I'm sure that was the intent. Uh, uh, if anything else, and Larry Blamire would have said, "Made you look." So
Yeah. That reminds me of one thing I wanted to comment on. Larry Blamire's character as disguise was pretty well done. The wig and the glasses, and I don't remember what else he was wearing, but it was really good. If I hadn't known it was him, I wouldn't have recognized him.
yeah, his character we didn't really talk about. Um, his character he comes off as a stranger and it ends up that he's not a stranger. In fact, he's evidently related to the Cavender in some way, shape, or form, and he's like he's not there by accident. And of course, when they think he's dead, they walk up to him. He's like, "Oh, can you see this writing here on this pen? This murder weapon? I can't rightly see it."
Yeah, there are multiple scenes when we think he is dead, but no, he
Well,
always turns out to be alive.
and
He was the funny one.
he starts to choke on that tea, which makes them think that he is about to die. When he stops and he's like, "Oh, that tea was just going down the wrong way." uh, can I lay down? I'm not really feeling the greatest.
Yeah.
You know what? Because I know that I said that we were possibly gonna go on about Lord of Tears, but do you mind if we take another murder mystery stroll?
Oh, I wouldn't mind. Are we going to do that before or after Lord of Tears?
I was thinking that we could do one more murder mystery, and it is my favorite murder mystery film, and you'll see why. Um, because you'll never guess who the murderer is. It's in a
Oh,
film called "And Then There Were None," and it was based on a short story and a poem called 10 Little Indians. So,
oh
and
wait. That sounds familiar from somewhere.
let's do that one first, and that'll be next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go on a journey and watch And Then There Were None next week. So, I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. So stay tuned for some more murder mystery mayhem, and we'll come back and tune in same time, same channel where Boris and I figure out who killed who, and then there were none.
Sounds good to me.
On that note, good night, ladies and gentlemen, and stay away from any mansions anytime soon.
Yeah, and from alien foreheads as well.
I'm ahead of you on that note.
You are.